Welcome to my presentation on copper and its impact on humanity. Originally this was meant to be based on all minerals, however that was too vast and large of a subject to do in one review, so I focused on one of the most influential from past to present metals, which is copper, where I have analyzed its effects on technology, the environment, and people over the centuries. So the earliest impact of copper was 10,000 years ago in the Neolithic area, where it first began use as a substitute for stone as a harder material for tools. It wasn't until 4,000 years later that metallurgy began in Mesopotamia, where copper casting techniques began to better purify the copper and make it more malleable for different tools. The Sumerians introduced this to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians then began mining copper in various areas, particularly Sinai, to form various tools and artwork, and they also use certain compounds of copper to create makeup as well. Egypt developed the lost wax method, which is one of the earliest casting methods that are actually still used today, where the desired object, possibly a statue, is made first out of wax, which is then covered in clay, which hardens, and then the wax is melted out, leaving a hollow clay casting mold, where the molten copper then fills the mold, and the clay can easily be broken, providing a perfectly casted mold. Later on, the Egyptians created the first bronze alloys through a mixture of copper with arsenic or tin. Bronze was a significant advancement for technology at the time, as it was much more harder and more durable than any other metal that they had access to, as iron was not able to be forged with the charcoal fires that they had at the time. However, bronze was through mixture with copper. At the time, this was developed independently around the world from different societies with access to either arsenic or tin, while the others had to continue relying on copper or other alloys until methods to smelt iron were eventually found. Particularly the creation of bronze alloys with arsenic were quite dangerous for those that were making it, as the arsenic would create very toxic fumes that they would be breathing in as they were forming the alloy. Now, in the modern times, there aren't as many tools being made with copper, however, it is still one of the most used metals for various applications, particularly electronics, and is also one of the most well recycled. However, despite the effective recycling of copper, it has provided various damage to the environment and to people, particularly by human means, such as the example of the Anaconda Copper Mining Company, which back in the 1900s pulled a lot of influence in the politics of Montana, which allowed them to affect the entire lives of the miners that worked in their mines in Montana. The miners ended up facing very poor working conditions, quite a bit of heavy pollution in the area, mining accidents, and many of them developed miner's lung, leaving them scarred even after the Ancona Copper Mining Company had left the area. Overall, this is just a small look at what copper and other minerals have done to affect humanity, whether it's through technology or whether it's through people seeking wealth at the expense of others by means of that resource. Thank you for listening to my presentation.